Hey everybody, it's been a little while since I've been on a video or I released a video. So I wanted to just kind of fill you guys in. My wife and I started a new business. We've been working our behinds off on the new business. And so I haven't been able to do as much of the editing and the videos. I've recorded quite a few, but I haven't been able to actually put them out. With that being said, I wanted to redo the garage. I've built some stuff. I built a new router table. I may have filmed something for it. I don't even remember if I filmed for that. I've taken everything in my shop and turned it 90 degrees, which is why you see some of the dust collection pipes and things like that that are just kind of sitting here because I'm still working on the layout. And with that, I'm going to be updating a few tools. The miter saw is going to get updated. You guys have seen the Festool Capex. That's what I'm going to upgrade it with. I don't really need to talk about it. There's 1,000 videos out there about the Festool Capex, and it's just a great saw, so I'm going to upgrade to it. However, I needed a bandsaw, so I contacted Laguna here in Texas, and they said, come on down. I was able to look at it. They were able to get me this 14, 12-inch capacity. It will work off of 110 or 230. And so I'm going to decide how I want to set that up, because I do have 230 here if I need it. And so I'm going to attempt to build this out of the box for you guys. I will try and call out like anything that I find that's like interesting or something that might be, whatever, but for the most part, it should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to follow the directions, and we're just going to take this box and start putting everything together and putting together this awesome bandsaw. Before we can do anything, we need to take everything out of the box. So we're going to open up this box. We're going to pull all of the parts out that we're going to be using. We're also going to, one of those parts is the table, and that one we need to be really careful with. Then we're going to get the styrofoam out of the way. We're going to punch it like we're a little kid, throw it out of the way. And the next thing is to try and get the bandsaw stood up and out. So after I kind of messed around and threw some things around, I decided just to rip the edge down. And then we're going to try and stand the whole thing up. So here we go. Come on, show us how good you are. Oh, come on, lift it. There we go. And once we have it up, we're just going to back the box back off of it. And inside there is another piece of styrofoam that has two more pieces of the stand. So we're going to take that and we're going to pop those out as well. We have a couple of dogs that are trying to help us, but here we get this stand out, and now we are ready to start assembly. So we start by flipping this over and then taking our feet, and what we want to do is we want to make sure we put our washer under the foot first, and then we want to use the black little screws. I'm going to say that again, the black screws, because I tried to use the silver ones before. But use the black screws, screw them down, and just do hand tight for right now. Get them on, and what we're doing here is we're putting all 4 feet on. If you are using the mobility kit, you only need to put the 2 that go on the forward facing side of the stand on. But as we continue, we just put all of these washers and rubber feet on to get the stand set up, and then we're going to give it a quick torque down. Now that the feet are on, we're going to attach the sides to each of the stands. With this, we're going to use the small silver washer and bolts that come with the kit, and we're just going to put them all on here together. And then once they're all on, we're also going to tighten them up. In order to attach the base, we need to first lay it on its spine, and then we're going to wheel it closer and put the bolts through the actual bandsaw. We'll lift the base to the bandsaw and then we'll get the bolts started. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. You do want to make sure that you have everything aligned before you fully tighten down all of the bolts. As you can see here, I'm doing this in a very awkward position in order to let you guys be able to see the bolt. But as we get it done, we will get everything torqued down and tight. Once everything is nice and tight, it is time to lift this bandsaw back up and test our strength. So we are just gonna stand her back up while the dogs watch. We install the table by simply pulling back the plastic and lining up the bolts and dropping those into the trunnion saddles. Once you're in the saddles, all we have to do is take these two ratcheting handles and we're going to attach them to those trunnion bolts, and that will secure the table into place. And as you can see, the table is covered with a factory covered grease that needs to be wiped off. We do that easily by just taking some shop towels and taking off the initial portion of the hard grease, the thick grease, and then we're gonna come back over the top of it with some WD-40, and we're just gonna spray some WD-40 down, and that is going to clean everything else up. As we continue working on this table, we need to take out the throat plate by taking out this one screw. Once the screw is out, then we're gonna pop out the whole throat plate and clean under there as well. The height adjustment wheel is simply put together by screwing in the handle into the wheel itself. You will need to put a little wrench power on that, and then you will be ready to install it onto the saw. You're going to do that by, if you see the little hole right there, and that is where an Allen key will go in. And we're going to aim this flat side of this Allen screw to the post that also has a flat piece that's going to recess. So we're just going to slide it on right here, and then we're going to take our key and we're going to tighten it up against that flat piece, and that will give us a nice secure location for this height adjustment knob to sit. Once this height adjustment knob is put together and installed, it's really easy to turn with a rack and pinion style to go up and to go down for the different clearances that you may need due to the type of woods that you're using. As it goes up, it also will roll all the way up, and it will actually come out the top, what we call like a little trap door. And that trap door allows it to give you full clearance for the full 12 inches for resaw capability. While we're over here, we might as well put the ruler on as well. So we just take that and we angle it in, and we get the two screws started, one on each side. Don't mind my big fat head. Let me get that out of the way for you, and then we will get this screwed in. We're going to leave it relatively loose right now so that we can adjust it later. Installing the fence is pretty simple. All we need are these two bolts and a couple of spacers. The spacers are going to go on the side with the smaller holes. The large hole is for the bolt to go completely through so that it's out of the way of the part that slides onto the rail. So once we get everything aligned, we're just going to take our Allen and screw it into the pre-drilled holes on the table. It's pretty simple. We just want to make sure that we are putting the longer end towards the back of the bandsaw. So as you can see, we're just going to give it a little quick torque down, and we are done. The next step is going to be to take the knuckle and back off the clamping screw. Once we get that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and slide it onto the rail and set her down. Then we can give it a little clamp. Now that the knuckle's in position, we can back off these two clamping nuts, which will release this plate that actually holds on the fence. So once the plate is loose, we can see that there's a flat side and a rounded side. So we want to back it completely off, and then we're going to take this plate off and give it a 180-degree flip right there. That puts the rounded side towards the knuckle, which will allow the fence to slide on much smoother and hold it in position just as easily. So once it's in, we're going to line it up with the edge and then screw in those clamps, and that tightens up our fence to the knuckle and allows us to move it as well if we need to. And once that is done, our fence is installed. Now we can slide it back and forth and check for operation and if it's rubbing against the table. There is a hole right here, and that allows us to put our Allen key down into it and adjust the far edge of the fence, the space between it and the table. So as I turn it, you can see it comes up, and as I turn it counterclockwise, it goes back down. And this, what we can do here is keep the table from rubbing against the fence, or the fence from rubbing against the tables. So now it's time to set up the throat plate. We took it out earlier, and the key is that we want to get it level with the table. So there's 4 little set screws that are in this throat plate. We're going to take our Allen key, set our throat plate into position, and we're not putting the screw in, and we're just going to take our Allen key and adjust either up or down in order to get our throat plate flush or level with the table. This may take you a couple minutes, it may take you a little longer depending on how much of a perfectionist you are, but you just want to get it up and to where it's touching right at all the sides, and then you get something that's going to like catch the edge. And if you catching the edge like I am right here, you can lower the plate or raise the plate depending, until it just comes across smooth and doesn't catch at all. Once you're done with that, take it back out. Okay, so now this is mainly put together. It's all rough fitted right now. Nothing is square, nothing is ready to start running anything through. We haven't even put a blade in it. We've also left it unplugged this entire time because we did not want anything to necessarily start moving when we weren't ready for it to start moving. So with that being said, next step is to actually put on the blade, get the blade set up, and the first thing we're going to do for that is we're actually going to, hold on, left, there we go. We're going to take this little screw out. We can just set it right here because this is what's holding these 2 pieces of the table together, where we're going to thread our blade through. But before we can do any of that, we want to get all of our bearings opened up and loose in all of our settings so that they can move like that. We want it all nice and movable and loose. With the cabinet doors open, you can now see the cast iron wheel and our blade tensioning gauge. We also have our bright red, so you can't miss it, blade guard that is closed with a magnetic strip. And this is where the blade is going to run down through as it goes over the blade. On the back side, we also have a channel that the blade will run through as well. So we can see that as we go under. We also have this blade guide that we are going to go ahead and loosen up so that the blade will easily fit in between the blade guide. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to put in our blade. Blades, as you can see, come coiled, okay? So coiled blade equals something that has to be uncoiled, which makes something dangerous sometimes. So let me cut these little zip ties off and get this little tag out from around it, and I'll show you how to uncoil it correctly. Okay, we got all of the pieces, extra stuff that doesn't need to be off. So what I like to do here is just very, very carefully, do not let this just pop open, but very carefully allow this to kind of unravel. See, that wasn't even the most safe. But that's how you want it. And you want the teeth to be facing down on the side that's going to be facing you outside of this bandsaw. Slide through here. That's, remember why we took that out. We're gonna slide it through there, and then we're just gonna walk it around until we can start to fit it and drape it nicely inside this cabinet and get it down this slot like this and down into here. We want it to go through both of the guards, even though the guards are not ready yet. We will want it to go through both of the guards. We're going to want it to lay nicely over. Okay, so this had a little tension on it from the factory. I had to release the tension in order to get it to sit and drape nicely over the top of this. Before we tension, we want to make sure our blade is in a roughly in the center position on our wheel. We can see that through both the viewing window here and from the side. We can use our tension wheel to raise or lower our tension, and we have this quick release to quickly raise and lower the tension. So the way we're going to do this is by lowering the tension by turning this wheel counterclockwise. Then we're going to use our arm and push it up into position and check the gauge. As you can see, we're sitting at 1/8. So if we had a 1/8 blade, we'd be in great shape, but we don't. We have a 1/2 inch blade. So we're going to increase the tension by turning it clockwise and then doing it again. And now we're set pretty close to 1/4. So it's time to do it one more time. That will get us to 3/8, and then we'll check it one last time and we should be close to a 1/2 inch. One more small adjustment and we should be in that 1/2 inch sweet spot. There we go. So in order to set the tracking, we want to make sure that this basically lock piece is loose. Okay, and then as we're moving this with the big cast iron wheel, this direction in a forward motion to the way the saw blade's going to cut, we're going to take this knob, and if we turn it counterclockwise, it's going to start to track forward, which it just did. And if we turn it this way, clockwise, it should come back towards the middle. And then we want to keep going. Oops, sorry, wrong direction. We want to keep going that direction until we bring it back to where it's right in the center. Give it a little extra twist right there. I think that's going to put us right where we want to be. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Now we're right where we want to be. We can close our thing and close this now because we're pretty much done and in line. And all we're going to want to do now is go ahead and put the lock back on it so that it holds our position where we want it to be. The next step is to square the table to the blade, but before we can do that, we need to put this piece in, which ties the two pieces of the table together and keeps it nice and flat. Once we hide it away, we check, and yep, we have a nice smooth surface. So the next step is to put our square on the table and put that to the blade. Now you can see there was a huge gap there. So what we're going to do is we're going to back off this lock nut, and then we're going to turn this bolt, which will push the back part of the table up, and we can do most of it by hand first, and then all we'll have to do is put a little wrench on it right at the end, and get it to its final position. We will know that it's in the right position when you check the blade and the blade is square to the table. Simple as that. All you have left to do is to tighten up the lock nut and give that a little crank so that it doesn't move. And now every time that you put this table back to 0, it will be 0. If we wanted to get this thing nice and on, we want to adjust these bearings, these guide bearings, in order for everything to work fine. So the first thing we want to do is make sure everything is loose, okay? This whole thing, this whole contraption, all the pieces are loose. Okay, so we got all those pieces loose. The first thing we want to do is we want to tap forward the thrust bearing till it just touches the blade, and then I like to give it a little tap back, and then we're going to lock it down. Then I run the blade just to make sure that we don't have a lot of touching there. And if we do, I would loosen it up just a touch more. I'm gonna loosen it up just a touch and give it another little tap. Because we really want it to touch, but we just don't want it to be pushing into that, if that makes sense. Okay, that's perfect. Next, we're gonna move this forward. We just grab all the pieces like this, and we're gonna slide them forward. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to guide this right behind the gullet, and I'll give you another view of that here in a second, of that, and I just tighten that one down. That's where we want to be on that. Okay, then we're going to touch, whisper off. We're going to go touch, and just a touch off like that. We're going to run it, and it should be, you shouldn't hear any rubbing or hardly any rubbing at all. And I think that's pretty good. And so we'll call that good, okay? First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually set these where I want them, right behind the gullet. Right behind the gullet, right there. Right there, and there. Okay, and then from there, we're gonna push these in, make sure this is loose. Okay, we're gonna push it in, and we're gonna give this a little push back, push, and a little touch back. And we're gonna crank that one down. And that one should be good. And then the last but not least, we're just gonna line these up the same as we did last time. Push them in, back them off, tighten them down. Push it in, back it off, tighten it down. Then the blade guard can go back up like this, and we're gonna tighten that up, tighten that up. We're gonna tighten our table down because we know our table's nice and straight. We can slide this back around here. We've already adjusted everything, so it's just about setting it down in. Nice and flush, nice and smooth. Drop our screw down into the screw hole and snug it up. To adjust our angle for our table, we're just going to loosen it up, move it slightly, and then re-tighten it. Okay, now that everything has been checked and tightened and moved and made sure everything is set up straight and square, it's time for us to plug this sucker in and make sure what we did is gonna work. So, next step, plugging it in. Everything appears to be tracking right, like we tested. You hear just a light brush of the guides guiding everything. Let's shut it off and let it cool down and slow down. It will take a while because there's a lot of motion in there in this bandsaw. And don't touch the blade while it's moving. Now that we know the bandsaw works, we're gonna go ahead and put this, we're gonna check it compared to the fence here. So we're gonna put the fence at an arbitrary distance, doesn't matter, okay? And all we're gonna do is we're gonna take this piece of 1/2 inch and we're gonna run this through, keeping it flush with, some dirt on it, keeping it flush with the fence so that we can check how straight our blade is to the fence. Keep it. We're gonna cut. We're gonna turn it off. We're just gonna hold it here while we're turning it off. And what I want you guys to see is there's a slight deviation between the back of one side of it versus the back of the other side. I put a clamp to hold it, and I've adjusted this just a touch off this back side, all I have to do is move it up to it, and once it's moved up to it, it'll be in the perfect spot. So what we're gonna do for that is we're just gonna take we're gonna take this one, we're just gonna pop that one loose, and maybe this one, and pop this one loose, just a touch. And all we're gonna do is slide it this way, and then crank it down and hope it holds. Is it holding? Yes. Is this one holding? Yes. And we let go. Now we're perfect again. We're gonna flip this bad boy over. We're gonna turn this back on. We're gonna cut again. And you can already see the difference in how close it is on both sides. Yep, nice. Okay, now as we have finished this and put it completely together, aligned it, made it true, squared it up, did all the things we need to do, the only thing we have to do left is put it into its final location. I'm going to put a mobility kit on it so that it's easier to move around this small shop. And now I can say I am officially a Laguna owner. This is now set up and ready to go, and it will find its home right back here relatively shortly. If you enjoyed this and if you got value out of this, please give it a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, and all those different types of things. If you want more information about the Laguna 1412, please just reach out and put it in the comments, and I can send you links, or I can send you, exactly what we did. Tons of information here. I'm sorry if I'm keeping you long, but it is a great saw. I'm extremely excited to have it. And as we finish putting together a dust collection and that type of stuff, I'll keep you guys informed. Thank you for subscribing already, and as you guys continue to subscribe, we're almost at that 1,000, which I'm kind of excited about because I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm just a normal person. So help me get to that 1,000. I'll be extremely excited when we get there, and maybe I'll even do some giveaway when we get to 1,000. So thanks again. We'll see you later next time.